I would just like to welcome you, Ayten Amin, to our Bird's Eye View conversation. It's wonderful to welcome you in from Cairo in Egypt. And we are speaking on Friday, the 27th of August, which is the day that your new film, SOUAD, hit cinemas in the UK, which is a wonderful thing. It's still only a recent thing that cinemas are open. And I understand cinemas are not yet open in Egypt, so you haven't actually presented your film yet. Is that correct?
Yes. Thank you for having me, and thank you. I'm very happy that the film is released. It's the first release of the film.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So let's start at the beginning, actually, because it's interesting talking about the making of the film, but let's also talk about the experience of releasing a film right now, because it's complicated, obviously. So Ayten, can you first talk about how did you become a filmmaker? Did film find you, or did you find film? Let's start there.
Well, I was always very interested in cinema since I was a child. I loved watching movies, but at the same time, it was a bit unconventional here to become a filmmaker as a woman, and because of my family, none of them works in cinema, and they were all like bankers and doctors, and they don't do art at all. So actually, I was when I graduated from school, I didn't even dare to say that I want to study cinema or anything. So I just went with everyone, and I studied business and accounting, and I started working in a bank afterwards. And then when I was when I was in the bank, I was a terrible banker.
Thank God.
The thing is, when I was in the bank, I was really bored most of the time. So actually, it was like by coincidence I found a place where it was like not a workshop. It was like a diploma. It was for 2 years. You can go and study everything in cinema, and then you at the end you can choose which one you want to be a director or a writer or a DOP, whatever. So I actually I applied for this, and it was very close to my house. So I used to go after work every day for 4 hours. This is how I started studying cinema. And it was not a very professional place, because it was a small place, and it was actually like there for 2 years, and then it closed off. So the thing is, I started studying there, and at the beginning, even I didn't tell them that I want to be a director. I was not sure, actually. So I was so shy. So I told them I want to be a writer, because I thought that writing might be easier, so I won't have to deal with a lot of people. But at the beginning, we had to like do like small projects where you shoot مثلا a character for 5 photos, or do 5 shots. So when we started doing these exercises, I actually loved doing it, and I felt that this is what I want to do, because at the time I'm a bit introvert as a person, so it was not that easy for me to express myself or to say what I'm really feeling. So actually, at the time when I started doing this, I felt that it was like for the first time what I felt was there. It was really, this is exactly what I want to say. This is exactly how I want to express myself. So this is why I actually felt that, this is what I really want to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love that your cats have just appeared just as behind you. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a nice shot. So, Ayten, for those who haven't seen your new film, SOUAD, can you just tell us a little bit about it?
How the idea came from, or about the film itself?
About the film. Tell us just a little bit about the story for people who haven't seen it, and then let's get into where the idea came from.
Okay, so the film is about two sisters in their teen years who live in Zaazit, which is a small city by the Delta in Egypt. And one of them, SOUAD, she lives like a sort of a double life. She comes from a conservative family, but at the same time, she has like a different life on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. She has flings with guys who are from other cities, and especially with one of them who is an influencer, Ahmed, who comes from Alexandria, the Mediterranean city. And it's about the relationship also between the two cities, because people who come from places like Zaadi and the small cities, they love Alexandria. It's for them like a dream. So it's also about the relationship between the two cities.
Mm. And it's really a powerful movie, and I think the reason it's so powerful, it almost feels like documentary, but it isn't. And I was really interested and not surprised to see that you'd made a documentary before, and to hear about your process. So your process was finding real people's stories and sort of patchworking together. So can you talk about the process? Well, let's start with why did you want to tell this kind of story? What was the jumping off point? Let's start there, and then let's talk about how.
So it was it kind of developed organically. At the beginning, I had this idea, and it was about the little girl's journey, about her sister, and it was based on an incident that I had at school. So when I always remembered this incident, and I was obsessed with telling the little girl's story and the relationship that she has with her sister's boyfriend, or whatever his name is, because he's not a real boyfriend. It started out like this, and I wanted to make the story of the two sisters in a small city and I discussed it with Mahmoud, my co-writer. I was telling him the idea, and I was telling him that I want the two sisters to be based. For some reason, I felt that I don't want to base them in Cairo. I wanted them to be based on a small city. And it was like something, I told them that I don't want this film to be shot in Cairo at all. I even want the guy to be from Alexandria, and I want all of, I had like this obsession of telling stories of people who are not in the capital, because all of our movies, our TV series, whatever, it's always here. So yeah, of course, and I felt they were underrepresented. They were not presented actually at all. So that was part of it. And then Mahmoud, because he's a poet, he's a very well-known poet in Egypt, and during 2011 he became a sort of an influencer on Twitter, because he has lots of followers, thousands of followers on Twitter. So when I started telling him about these girls and the guy they talked to, he told me about the girls who follow him from small cities, and sometimes they go and send him messages and ask him about stuff, and they were very curious about his life. So actually we started like making folders of these girls, and we contacted them, most of them, and most of them actually came to Cairo just for a day to meet us. And we had like this camera, and it was an audition, a conversation. It was like each girl, we were like with her for more than 3 hours, and we talked about everything in their life, and we told her about the story that we want to tell, and sometimes about the scenes we were thinking of, and they would tell us really a lot. They were very generous about sharing stuff in their life, and based on these conversations, we actually started writing the first draft of the script. So this is how it started. I wanted to tell the story because part of me is I'm very obsessed with social media and what happened with social media, because we changed a lot as human beings. I think we got introduced to new types of relationships that we didn't have before. And also, I don't think as human beings we were equipped to get all of this information about all of those people. I think this changed us, everything about us. So there was something about this that I wanted to tell, and of course I wanted to tell it from a very local point of view about those girls, because I know it's universal how teenagers deal with social media, but at the same time, there's something very specific here, is that this is like a window for them. It represents like freedom in a way from their daily life. So it was like a sort of a fake freedom, because you have this freedom when you're on your phone like for an hour a day. At the end you go back to your life, which is totally different than what you see. So this was part of what I wanted to tell, specifically about how those girls grow up and deal with social media at this time.
And SOUAD is, I mean, we really see her living, social media enables her to live a double life. So you can see at the beginning that it's satisfying. At least she has an escape, because, I mean, can you describe this double life? I mean, because the specifics of it, I just want to hear from your Egyptian cultural context, because I just think it's really interesting to unpack that. Whoop.
My cat.
Was that a dynamic cat move?
Oh, they're getting very energetic now. What was the question? I forgot.
Double life. Social media enables her to live a double life.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I think the social media here adds to the complexity of life, because you get really a glimpse of what it is to be in another life, and you get into relationships which are not real, and the virtual relationships it's like they're real and they're not real at the same time. So actually it adds to their depression, I believe. And if someone is sensitive and has a bit of an issues growing up, I think it adds to the depression, because you know, you will never be there, and it adds to the insecurities, and at the same time also because, yeah, for example, SOUAD religiously, she's veiled and she prays, and at the same time she wants to send him photos where she's like more revealing photos without the veil and with her hair, and more feminine. But at the same time she feels so bad about them afterwards. So it's like you always go. She does this, and then she goes back to praying and being with her family, and then she wants to go back to do this again, and then she so it's fluctuating between these two worlds. I think it really adds to the depression that they face. It's and it's like a boost in the day, but at the same time you go more down more than before.
Yeah, the highs and lows of and also the weight, I think you said, of living a secret life, that then where you're also then carrying a lot of shame in both spaces, perhaps, because
yes yeah, actually she does have shame in both worlds.
Yes. Can you talk a bit about that? What were you exploring there?
Hey, the thing is that she doesn't accept herself in her, and she doesn't accept that this is what she wants. She thinks that it's wrong to be like this. So in her daily life, she doesn't accept it, and she hides what she's doing. And at the same time, when she talks to Ahmed Bordo, she doesn't tell him everything about her life. So she has like this concealed part of her, and there's the lies. She lies a lot about her life to everyone. To the point where you don't really know when it's true or when it's not. So I actually think that she really gets mixed up of the stories she comes up with. So actually being constantly that you have to lie and pretend, it's you lose your sense of self. I think that there's something in your identity that that's not there. So this is what makes her very shaky as a person. She can be easily swayed. So this is it. I got lost in what I was saying.
That's okay. We'll stop. We'll stop there. Can you talk a bit? Were you aware of who you were making the film for? Are you making it for young women like her?
Yeah, definitely. This film is made for the girls that it was made about, and actually that's why I'm really waiting for the release in Egypt. We did like small test screenings here for young women who are similar to SOUAD, and they were so engaged in the film, and they cried in so many places. And actually they cried in places where I didn't expect them to. In مثلا when she's flirting with the guy over the phone, they cried a lot in the scene, which was something really surprising for me. But because they relate so much to what's happening, and because they do this, and it's always behind their parents. It's always behind. It's not. It's not something that they say out loud that they do this. So yeah, I made it for them, of course.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your approach to filmmaking. So tell us, I mean, the film feels very fresh. It has a very short time frame, which I love films that have a very short time frame. So you feel like you're there, you're looking through a door, a window into someone's life when at a moment when a lot is happening, and then you see the aftermath as well. And so can you just talk about who inspires you? Where does your style, how have you developed that style, and why did you bring it to this story particularly?
Well, I can say that SOUAD was the first time for me to work the way I want really to make a film. Because before I was always our productions here are usually mainstream, and so like I did TV series before, and I did my first feature film. So when I was always working conventionally in a way, but at the same time I wanted to do something else, and I was very interested in what John Cassavetes used to do, because I love his films, and Abdel Latif Kechiche also, because I truly loved La Vida d'elle when I watched it. So actually I remember when I watched it, it was like, you can, because I was always thinking that I want to do films with this style about people in their everyday life, and I was not thinking if this was possible, or if it's possible to do it here. But when I watched Keshi's films, I felt so, I watched all of his interviews about the film. I was really obsessed with it. So actually I felt so it's possible to do a film about just a girl growing up in her everyday life. And I had this idea for years, and so when I started working with Mahmoud, I was always telling him that we want this film to have this natural feel, and the dialogues to flow naturally, and to have and to be raw. And I was always telling him that we need to have this poetic feel, but from the rawness, not from trying to tell the story in a delicate way. I didn't want this at all. So these are the filmmakers that I truly loved, and that I think were inspiring for me when I was making this film. At the same time, when I was growing up, my culture in watching films was always Egyptian films. When I was growing up, I actually started watching more of the European films and independent films when I started studying cinema. Before, it was all Egyptian films. And I also have to say that part of SOUAD also is there was something in Egyptian cinema in the 80s. There were like 4 directors who had this wave of doing realistic films, and they did great films here. Unfortunately, they didn't have international recognitions, but they were truly great films. And I worked with one of them as an assistant at a certain point when I started working. And he was very inspiring also for me. He was my mentor. Muhammad Khani, he actually used to live in London, and he studied cinema in London, and then he came back to Egypt. So actually I loved the way they made films, but at the same time they at the time they used to make it with actors because they couldn't afford, otherwise the films were not going to be made. So actually one of them, when I was editing the film, Khairi Bshora, he was there in the editing. I was asking him about stuff, and he was telling me, oh, this is what we wanted to do, but we couldn't at the time because we couldn't afford to do this. So he was very happy about it. So also they were very inspiring for me. This wave in Egyptian cinema was very inspiring for me in making this film. I dedicated the film to them, actually.
Wow. So, but this style has not been able to be utilized for a long time. Is that right? Did you have to become influential yourself in order to be trusted and backed to be made a film this way, or did you just do it in a very independent way?
Well, we ended up doing it very independently because we tried to apply for funds at the beginning. We got a lot of funds at the end of the film, but in the beginning, actually, we got rejected everywhere. The script was rejected everywhere. I have like a pile of rejection emails. So it was what made me start this film was that my producer, who's actually my best friend, Sameh, he was like there from the beginning, and he doesn't work in cinema. He actually works in business, and he lives in New York, and he was always very interested in what I was doing, and he was trying always to help me out. And at the end, he gave me some money, and we started shooting, and he became the producer of the film. So actually we shot for 3 days with his money, and then we stopped like for 2 months, and then we got money from the Francophonie through the Tunisian producer Dora Bouchoucha, and she was also very supportive of this film from the beginning. So actually I was supported by a Tunisian female producer who has nothing to do here with cinema here, and with one of my friends who became a producer. So this is actually how we made the film. Afterwards, we got Muhammad Hifzi in the shooting, and we started getting money from people in the industry. But it was like when we were halfway through the film.
Yeah, I saw Wim Wenders's name on the credits as well. How did he become involved? It's a real patchwork. It's a real international project in the end.
Yeah, it became an international project. Well, actually, it was he got involved after Cannes. When we were selected for Cannes, the film was not finished actually at the time, and we still had a lot of work in the sound and the coloring, and so we applied for the World Cinema Fund, and we got it. So we had to look for a German co-producer, and at the time, Sameh, my producer, he was introduced to Leah, who is the producer in Wim Wenders' company. And then they started talking. They were talking about another project, and she asked him about SOUAD, and she told him that we want to watch it if we might be interested. So they did, and they loved it, and it was there's something also interesting here, because when we started writing at the first draft, I gave Mahmoud, my co-writer, a film called Alice in the Cities by Wim Wenders, and I told him that this is the feel I want in the journey of the girl with the guy, and we watched it several times together, and it was like a reference for us when we were writing. So he couldn't believe it when I told him that that Wim Wenders became a co-producer on the film, because he was like the reference. So actually this is what happened, and he was involved with us in the sound design process. And he gave us tips about the editing and about the sound, and this is how he got involved.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear this. It takes not just a village, it takes countries to build something like this. And can you let's talk about the actors. So how, I mean, it was quite a long process with the people that you developed the story with, and are any of those the people that you then cast? Right.
No.
So talk to us about.
They didn't end up in the film.
Right.
Well, because the process actually, it took us like 5 years till we were getting the film made. So actually they grew at the time. But at the same time, we started doing the casting like a year before shooting. So it took us some time, and I've seen like more than 250 girls from different cities.
Wow.
And we did the casting outside of Cairo, so we did it in a lot of small cities, and then I decided on the 2 of them after a very long process.
And they're not actors, are they?
No, they're not. It's their first time. Actually, all of them in the film, it's the first time, and it's for the guy, for Ahmed, for all of the cast. It's their first time. The father, her friends, everyone. And this is what I wanted to do. I wanted people who were acting for the first time and who had something similar of the character, because I really wanted this documentary feel where you're not sure whether it's they're real or they're actors, or what's exactly happening. And when we started working in the rehearsals, we did like for 5 months rehearsals with the actresses, without them reading the script. And what I was doing is I was telling them the ideas of the scenes, and we used to develop the scenes together, and I was shooting all the time with my mobile. It was just me, without even assistance. It was just me and them. And then I would go back to Mahmoud and show him what we did, and he would get the scenes and rewrite them according to what we were doing. So it was like the process was back and forth between what we were doing in the rehearsals and what Mahmoud was writing. Sometimes he would come up with the ideas of the scenes, and I would do them, and I would go back to him, and he would rewrite the scene. And also when we were shooting, there were like scenes which ended up in the film. They were not written. It was like Mahmoud was telling me, I'm thinking that she can that Rabab can take photos of her, and they can do makeup together, and he was telling me about this as an idea for a scene, and we did it without a script. And there was another scene with all of the girls at the beginning talking and laughing about the skincare and lemon. So it was all unscripted. They knew their characters by heart, so it was like we did it on the spot, and we were shooting as if we're shooting a documentary. So the DOP was moving as if we're doing a documentary, and then when we would do it again, I would choose best some parts that I want them to say again, and we would do it all over again.
Wow. I mean, that's why it works so much. It really does feel so fresh and so real. And how what do you do now with the actors? Do you feel, because they're not actors, they're coming from their lives in a way without having planned to be an actor? And so do you have a sort of sense of responsibility towards them? Is it complicated managing people's expectations?
Yeah, of course it's complicated. Yeah, for example, because due to COVID, I really wanted them to attend screenings for the film, and to see how people react to their performance, and they haven't been anywhere since the film was finished. So they just like, مثلا they got the best actress at Tribeca, and they've never been there. They don't know what is Tribeca. It's like they're happy they're winning, but at the same time, no one here knows about what is Tribeca. Their friends, their family, they don't know this. So even when we were selected for Cannes, actually the little girl didn't know anything about it. She didn't know what is Cannes, what is the festival, what's. So yani, due to COVID, I really wanted them to attend any screening, just to have the feel of what they did. And at the same time, they want to pursue acting careers, and I really want to be able to help them, because it's not that easy to be an actress here. Yani it's like lobbies. They have certain people who work, and I want them to be able to be part of this, to have it as a career. So we'll see. We're still
Well,
figuring
hopefully
out.
when the film is released in Egypt later this year, they will have their moment.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, Ayten, you were the first female Egyptian director to have a film in the Cannes Film Festival, I believe.
Yeah, feature film fiction, because I think there was someone before with a documentary.
Right.
That was years back.
Okay.
Uh,
But fiction.
yeah.
Fiction, and
For fiction,
which is
yes.
quite incredible in 2020 that you're the first. How easy is it to be a female director in Egypt?
That's not easy at all. Of course it's not, but so yeah, working as a director in Egypt is not easy, and you're trying to make your own films, it's really difficult here, because you don't have support, financial support to make the films, if you have an art house project, and at the same time, being female, it's I didn't have these problems in SOUAD, but I have them all over my career. Is that, for example, I did a lot of work. I made many short films, and I made a feature film, and I made a TV series. But at the same time, every time I work, it's like I have to prove myself all over again, as if I did nothing before. So there's this trust issue, that whatever you do, as if you're starting from scratch every time. So this is annoying after a while, and at the same time there were other issues, like I think in getting the orders from us, because when I was doing Masan, the TV series, I did it with two other female directors. We were three female directors in the TV series, and we did it together, we developed it together, and we had a lot of problems when we were making it, because it's there was an issue with us giving orders. It was always, they were convinced that they can change our minds, or maybe you can do it in another way, and I was almost sure that if I was a male director, this wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have been having this discussion, but at the same time, we suffered a lot when we were doing this. So the three of us, we were always talking about it when we were making the series, that it wouldn't have been the case if we were male directors. So yeah, but maybe it will get better this time after SOUAD. I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I mean, as an independent, as a director making films outside of the system, right, as an independent, it sounds like you have to have international support, otherwise it's really hard.
Yeah, I think so, because the directors here who did their own films, like Yusuf Shaheen, they had international support, of course, but at the same time, it's tricky, because sometimes the problem that I faced with SOUAD when it was a script is that a lot of the funds or the foreign producers, the European producers, they were always asking, but there's nothing that's happening. It's just an ordinary life of the girl why they were asking about the hot big topics here, and this is annoying because I'm a filmmaker and I have the right to make films about people in whatever I want to do. I don't have to address the hot topics in order to have support. So this was really annoying at the time. I hope next time it won't be like this, that it changed. But of course, Bardo, for me, the international support has to come with an appreciation of me as an artist, and not as someone who's dealing with a hot topic or something.
But it still feels like the film does deal with lots of hot topics, actually. I mean, one of which is, do you like it feels like it's saying a lot about the experience of being a young woman in Egyptian society, and it feels like it's saying quite a lot about class, or perhaps maybe that's through an English lens. Can you, I mean, is it controversial? Is this film going to be controversial? Are you tackling something that's, it feels like it's quite big?
Whether it will be controversial, I think it will raise discussions here, a lot of them, I'm sure. But at the same time, I'm hoping that people here will like it in a certain way, because I was screening it for like mothers and they had this shock a bit because they were not quite they didn't know how social media was affecting their daughters that much. So I have this hope that it will raise discussions, and one of them was telling me that she started talking to her daughter afterwards because she felt that she didn't really know what was going on in her life. So I think it will be just discussions. I hope it's not controversial. Just to get from the censorship. I just want the film to be screened here without any problems.
Yeah. And can you talk a bit about the point about class? Because it does feel like it would be really interesting to have a kind of wider context around Egyptian society. The girl coming from a small place, he comes from Alexandria. You talked about the geographical difference. It's also wealth and perhaps some sense of elitism and also class. So can you just talk a bit more about what you might want an international audience to know and understand?
Yeah, the thing is, here when we get into relationships, or it's always for marriage, of course, people here marry for the social status. There's always a social climbing in the marriage topic. So for example, for Ahmed, when I was thinking of him from the beginning, we were thinking that he's like a typical normal guy, and he was not trying to be bad or to do anything hurtful for her. It's just he's privileged in that he has all of these rights because he's brought up as a man here, and at the same time he has this idea that he can marry this girl because it will be good for him to marry this type of girl or to be with this type of girl, and at the same time he can like and love someone like SOUAD because she's closer to his social status, and at the same time he can be more intimate with her. He feels himself much more with her. He feels like more of a man with her because she's very impressed and easily impressed with him, with anything he does, and that's very satisfying for him. So also there's this complexity about the male character in the film. So it's about the male perspective and the class, because he wouldn't marry her. He can totally be in love with her and not decide not to end up with her because she won't do for him what the other girl can. So, and this is so normal here, and it's like we don't even think about it. So when we were writing about it, it was very it was not an issue. We were not thinking of we were going to talk about the class and the social class. It's very obvious in the film, but it came out very organically when we were writing, because we know this by heart, how he would be in a relationship with this one and not with this one. But it had like an impact when we were doing the art direction, because I was telling the art director that SOUAD's house and Ahmed's house are somehow similar. He's not very far from her, actually, although he seems from when you see his videos that he comes from an upper family, but it's not true. It's like the same, but he's in Alexandria, so maybe in Alexandria he has more privilege, because he's in Alexandria, a much bigger city, but he's not that different from her. And at the same time, you can see the difference between his house and his girlfriend's house, which is another level and another social class.
And did you set out making SOUAD thinking, I want to make something that reflects an issue that I see maybe not being talked about enough? Do you set out with the intention that you want your films to change things, or at least start conversations? What drives you to tell the kind of stories that you tell?
Well, it comes from intuition at the beginning, and then I discover what is it I want to address. But at the same time, it's SOUAD, because it kept developing as we were going. So I was going with just this idea of the little girl meeting the guy, and then the two girls, the way they live, all of the details of the pressure they're having in their everyday life. And then we went into the guy, and then also the way he lives, and the way that there's like this, all of these privileges for them, for males here. I never wanted to address it as a topic, but at the same time, it's something that really concerns me, and so it comes out naturally when I'm talking about the characters, because I'm a totally part of the society here. So even I could identify with the girl and relate to them very closely, because I too suffer from something like an identity crisis, because I always have to pretend to be accepted in my daily life. There's a lot of pretension, so you can get by and be accepted by your family, and so it's so I think it's always something that I relate to personally, and it ends up being big topics at the end, but it always comes from something personal for me.
Well, that's why I think it's so powerful, because it feels like it comes from a very authentic, deep place, this story. So
yeah, it does, I guess.
Yes, so I'm not surprised, because watching it feels it's a deep experience, even though it looks on the surface, like you said, you got all this feedback, it's too small a story, what's going on, nothing's happening. But that's not true. Everything's happening.
Yeah. There was a Tunisian director when we were still working on the film, and we were trying to get money, so we were like in a market, and we showed like 40 minutes, and it was unedited, it was like footage from the film. And he kept talking to me afterwards, and he was telling me I could see a lot about the Egyptians just from these 40 minutes. And you told me a lot about them without reading the journals and knowing what's happening. And Ali, without all of this, I can know a lot about the way they live their lives. So this is for me the thing. I really want to talk about things, but from how I feel about them.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility as you're releasing this film internationally? Do you feel a sense of responsibility to represent your culture carefully?
Yeah, of course. of course, because I want us to be presented like I told you. I want, part of doing this film is that I was really happy that I gave those girls a chance to be seen and heard, and to be there. Just they have the right to be there and to be acknowledged. And this is a major part of the film. So of course I feel so responsible, because I also don't want to be I would, like I was telling you, I don't want to be someone who handles hot topics and do films about hot topics, and that's not what I want to do at all. I want them to be perceived as human beings who are struggling in their daily lives, and they should be appreciated and seen.
Mm-hmm. And how easy is it to tell the stories of women and girls within the culture in which you exist? Or how common is it?
Yeah, the thing is, there's no problem in telling their stories, but at the same time, it's not commercial here, so we don't tell the stories. So it's like all of our films are either actions or comedies, and we don't have a lot of leading actresses who are stars or who can like be box office, and so it's not there. It's almost like sometimes in TV series you can find them, but it's very rare. And I think it has all to do with the market, not with anything else, not with like an intention not to do them. No, it's just the market, and they don't see them as bankable, as having stories, male-led stories, so they don't.
Mm-hmm. So that's why this film needs to be a hit in Egypt, because perhaps it will break some ground.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. And I really, it will make a difference for all of us if it's if the girls went really to watch this film. And I know the difference between the film and the other films here is that its target audience is different. Is
Right.
different than the usual target audience here. But I know that there is a big audience for this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the common. It's not where they think of where the money will come from.
Mm-hmm. And so when will the film come out? At the end of this year in cinemas? Are
Yes.
your cinemas not open yet?
No, they're open.
Right.
They're open. It's been a while. They're open. And actually at this time films here are making money because people go to movies. I think they're bored to death, so they all go to movies. Of course, with social distancing and everything,
Yeah.
but they go to movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have a very long tradition in Egypt of cinema and cinema going, and I was looking at a study from not very long ago which said that 96% of Egyptians in this survey said they only watched Egyptian films.
Yeah. We're yes, it's the local cinema is very important for us. Mm-hmm. And it's I was telling you, and when I started studying cinema, I was only watching Egyptian films, and sometimes, of course, American films, because at the time that's all what we had. But Egyptian films are very, very popular in Egypt.
That's wonderful to hear. I wish we had that kind of enthusiasm. It's much harder here because of American cinema. Yeah. What are you doing next, Ayten? What are you working on? What kind of film are you going to be producing next, do you think?
Well, I have another project with Mahmoud also, my co-writer. We started writing, but we still have time, and I'm working on a TV series because I have a parallel career in TV, so I'm going back to TV to make money, and because I love TV. Actually, it's like
Good.
part of my career. So I'm working on a TV series that I'm working on now, and another feature film.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful to hear. Well, we really look forward to what you do next. Do you have any final anything that you feel like you didn't cover that you'd like the audience to know about the film, or anything you want to discuss with?
No, I think it's okay. I talked a lot. I feel I talked a lot.
That was great. We wanted you to talk a lot. It was really interesting. It's really, that's why the film is deep. I found it really, really moving, and you know, to see the aftermath of I mean, it's very shocking what happens in the middle of the film. I mean, I really did not predict it at all. I did not see that coming at all, which of course neither does anybody else. So that's the point, that the audience feel the same as
The family.
yeah, and
Yeah.
him and the sister, everyone's shocked. And so, and the aftermath, it's really beautifully done. Your style is very powerful. You have very good instincts. It's hard to trust instinct sometimes in filmmaking, because as you said, you hear so many people saying nothing's happening, what's this about?
Yeah, it's like they make you doubt what your work, what you're doing. But at the same, and you know, when I was working on this film, because of Dora, our Tunisian co-producer, I love her. She was like the first one to support this film, and she was always telling me, don't change anything, just do it the way you want to do it. She told me it's powerful. There's something there. They don't get it. They will get it when the film is made. But so she was always empowering me in this. Don't change it. So actually, it kept me going, of course, because she believed that there's something there.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing as an artist, to trust your instincts in life as well, not just in art, right? And it's all about finding people who also trust your instincts.
Yeah, of course. So the thing is, I think I only trust my instinct. Because you know, because when I started studying cinema, it was not a professional place where I was studying cinema. So it was like, because I knew that technically I was not that powerful. I was, at the time, I felt that I didn't know a lot of stuff technically. So I always believed that I will do what I feel. Maybe there's something there because I feel good about it. So this made me more trust my instinct.
Yeah, and you knew that just doing it also is important, however much you may not be doing it properly.
Yeah, right. Because I didn't trust that I can do it properly, because I was not sure that I know everything, that I have everything to do it. But at the same time, I always knew that I have something to say. There's something I know. So I always trust this feeling.
Mm-hmm. And how, just talking about your crew, actually, I mean, how many people did you make the film with? I mean, how hard was it to gather people to make a film like this?
No, we were very. It was not a large crew at all. It was a very small crew, actually. And you know, like, مثلا, our editor, he was at the time 22 when we started. It's the first time he edits a film. He only makes short films. He's a director and an editor of his short films, and I loved his films. And I tried at the beginning with professional editors. It didn't work out. I didn't feel good when I was working with professional editors. So we changed, and I had this idea of getting him. I don't know why. You know, he lives outside of Cairo. He lives in a small city in Firstsite. He doesn't come from Cairo, and he doesn't live here. He's still studying. So I told Sameh, that's why you have a best friend as a producer. he can try things with you. So he was like convinced. Okay, let's try him. So he came here, and he stopped his studies for a year. He came here, and we started editing. And he was like, for me, he's like the best editor I've ever worked with. While actually, this is really his first job.
Wonderful.
And the editing was really, really difficult in this film, because we had hours and hours of footage. So it was like he was so dedicated. And he's very he has a strong opinion, and that's what I loved about him, because even professional editors, they were like, because it's not the usual these kind of films here, so they were they wanted just to do what I wanted to do, and that's it. because they were not sure what to do with this material. It looked so odd. So for them, yeah. So Khaled was not like this at all. He was very confident, although he's really young. So so مثلا it was a very good experience. And my DOP, Megid, it's his second film as a DOP, and he's a director also.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a director. He makes short films, and he did a film as a DOP before, a feature film. He was working as an assistant director in this film, and then he became the DOP when they were making it. So he was a very good DOP, and when I worked with him, it was like, because Bordeaux people here in the DOPs are very obsessed with doing glossy kind of cinematography, and even when you tell them that you don't want this, they still do it in a very technically right, professional way, which is not at all what I wanted to make this film with. So Megid understood very well what I wanted to do. So it was much more flexible to deal with him, because he was just working with the available light, and he knew that this is what we're going to make. So he was just trying to get the beauty shots out of these natural look. So that's why I worked with him. So it was like it was like this. The crew and the art director and the stylist, they work with me all the time, so I know them from long ago. They started actually working with me. So we're very small crew.
Well, that's a lovely place to end it. I think it's just to say, Ayten Amin, please keep trusting your instincts. They're good. They're really good. You just need people who also trust them. That's all you need, and then you'll go very far.
Thank you so much.